Number one, we don't really know shit about the way visions are given out. None of the Archons agree. Raiden's like, I don't give out it. Venti implies they're tools, just used. And a lot of Mondstadters have that POV. Ahida, Zhongli, no one agrees. No one agrees. Not even the Archons. But Neuvillette does give us some insight into how visions are granted because he seems to actually know. If you hear the needy baby, he's just needy. Kaya. Anywho, I just put these up here for sillies because I think it's so funny how Neuvillette thinks Zhongli and Venti are crazy for wearing a fake vision. Notice A doesn't. She's like, excuse me. But he hints that human yearning and determination are what get you a vision. Also, the rightfully theirs under false pretenses. The power to grant visions never belonged to the Archons. It was taken from the dragons. And we see that. He doesn't need a vision to manipulate the elements. The usurper took the function, and this is Neuvillette's character story for vision. That is the person, the usurper, who took the dragon powers that took the Gnosis and created them from the third descender's remains. But they are fragments. And you see that whoever person's wishes reaches the heavens, the seven overseers, the Materion, are duty bound to grant them a gift. So if you wish hard enough, if you pray hard enough, if you believe hard enough, the gods must recognize that if your prayers reach the heavens. And this is in line with what Venti said. They don't know who. They just set aside a piece of their power to give them. And so when a prayer reaches that height, the vision, the elemental authority almost of its own accord grants the vision. They impart a mastery of their element. And this kind of implies that the more people that give visions, the less mastery there is, because they're setting aside a part of themselves for the Archon, which is fascinating. And it reminds me about how Kazuha was able to waken Tomo's vision against A. He's using a fragment of her power against her because he is uniting his friend's wish, which reached her and got Electro against her. And that is probably why he is able to defend the blade. Really cool connection. Neuvillette does not have to do this. He is not forced by Celestia to set a part of him aside. But having lived amongst humanity for so long and remembering what he said here, that he sees value and has newfound appreciation for it, Neuvillette sets a side of himself apart. And so it should work, ideally, in the same way that the visions have worked so far. Archon doesn't really know who it is based on what we know. Again, this is all conjecture for me. I'm just making this shit up based on what I'm reading. So is everyone else. It's a theory. Let's treat them like theories. I mean, I'd like to be right, but who knows? Only Genshin. Let me in there. Anywho, Neuvillette sets a part of himself. He doesn't have to. He chooses to. And I assume he would want this to run on autopilot. But in Furina's very vision story herself, she said visions are usually objects that appear in response to humankind's most fervent wishes. Yes, we know this because it's what happens when their most fervent wishes reach the heavens, that a piece of that element is then given to them in the form of a vision, a piece of mastery, if you will. But this one in particular seemed like more of a reward for her past deeds. Why? Because Furina didn't really have a wish when she received it. She was just performing and playing the role, and it kind of appeared. And so it's kind of implied here that whoever gave her her vision believed that she deserved it. Neuvillette recognizes that work. He's like, she did immense work. She played this role. And he also loves her as a performer, like proud dad moment. I know this is big shit, but that's more their relationship in my head. Y'all's art be really good. He kind of says, though she's like meek and full of doubt, she was able to see this through. And so I kind of like, because at this point it is a headcanon, the headcanon that Neuvillette, when he set a part aside of himself, when he got his authority back, set aside a special piece of himself for Furina, that if her prayers reached him, reached his authority, that they would be recognized and she would receive a vision, and the claw marks that are on her vision, but they kind of look like little dragon teeth. So it makes this even cuter. I love it. And those are not on the other Fontanian visions. That could also be because Neuvillette didn't grant these. These were granted with the usurper's Gnosis. And so is this a mark of Neuvillette setting aside a very specific piece? Because she's able to use Numa and Oisa like Neuvillette says he technically is able to, even though his playable version can only use one. Excuse me, hell yeah. But we got to keep the Archon special. So he set aside a special piece to recognize her. I like that idea. I think it's cute. I think he would. And I would even go a step further and say, even if it wasn't intentional, maybe he didn't think to do it, I think that Neuvillette so clearly values Furina and what she has done for Fontaine and what Focalors and Furina have done for him, giving him his authority back and trusting him with the people, that he would subconsciously set this aside. But this does clearly say that Neuvillette made it a very conscious choice to keep giving out Hydro Visions. I hope that answered your questions. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, like and follow for more Genshin lore. And join the Discord.